Rich traveler missed his flight. The waitress who talked to him never expected what happened next. The fluorescent lights of Denver International Airport buzzed overhead as Michael Harrison stood frozen in front of the departure board. His perfectly pressed Armani suit wrinkled from a day of back-to-back meetings. The red letters next to Flight 847 to New York mocked him, "Departed." "Damn it," he muttered, running his hand through his salt and pepper hair. At 52, Michael had built a tech empire worth $3 billion, but all his money couldn't turn back time by the 15 minutes he needed. His phone buzzed incessantly. Sarah, his assistant, had been calling non-stop since he'd texted her about missing the flight. The board meeting with Japanese investors was in 12 hours, and this was supposed to be the deal that would expand Harrison Technologies into the Asian market. Michael looked around the nearly empty concourse. It was 11:47 p.m., and most shops were closing. The next flight to New York wasn't until 6:15 a.m. He'd have to find a hotel, shower, and somehow prepare for the most important presentation of his career on 3 hours of sleep. As he dragged his leather carry-on past the shuttered storefronts, a warm glow caught his eye. Mile High Cafe was still open, its neon sign flickering slightly. Through the window, he could see a woman with auburn hair tied in a ponytail, wiping down tables. Michael hesitated. He hadn't eaten since breakfast and the airplane peanuts he'd been looking forward to were now somewhere over Kansas without him. More importantly, he needed coffee, lots of it, if he was going to survive tomorrow. The bell above the door chimed as he entered. The woman looked up, and Michael was struck by her genuine smile. She had kind green eyes and looked to be in her early 30s, with laugh lines that suggested she smiled often. "We're technically closed," she said, glancing at the clock on the wall, "but you look like you could use some coffee." "Rough night, you could say that." Michael attempted a smile but felt it fall flat. "I missed my flight. The next one's not until morning, and I have the most important meeting of my life in New York tomorrow." The waitress, her name tag read Emma, studied him for a moment. "Well, Mr. Harrison." "Michael Harrison." "Well, Mr. Harrison, I'm Emma Collins, and lucky for you, I just made a fresh pot. Have a seat anywhere you'd like." Michael chose a booth by the window overlooking the runway. In the distance, he could see planes taking off, their lights disappearing into the night sky. One of them might have been his flight. Emma approached with a steaming mug of coffee. "On the house," she said, setting it down. "You look like you've had enough bad luck for one day." "Thank you." Michael wrapped his hands around the mug, surprised by the gesture. "Don't you want to get home? I'm sure you've been here all day." Emma shrugged, taking a seat across from him. "My shift ended an hour ago, but honestly, I'm not in a rush to get back to my empty apartment. My roommate moved out last week, and it's too quiet there. What about family, friends? My mom lives in Phoenix now, and most of my friends have moved away or gotten married. Denver's expensive, and server jobs don't exactly pay enough to keep up." Emma's voice carried no self-pity, just matter-of-fact honesty. Michael found himself genuinely curious. "How long have you been working here?" 3 years. "I moved here after college to pursue photography, but ... Emma laughed, but there was sadness in it. "Turns out Rent doesn't care about artistic dreams. This job pays the bills while I figure out my next move." "Photography?" Michael leaned forward. "What kind?" Emma's face lit up. "Travel photography. Mostly. I want to document small communities around the world, the places tourists never see. I've saved up enough for a trip to Southeast Asia, but I keep having to dip into that fund for emergencies." She gestured around the cafe. "Like when the water heater in my apartment broke last month." Michael studied her as she talked. There was something refreshing about her openness, her lack of pretense. In his world, every conversation was a negotiation, every smile calculated. Emma seemed incapable of artifice. "What about you?" Emma asked. What's this big meeting about? I run a tech company. We're trying to expand into Asia, and tomorrow's presentation could make or break the deal. Michael surprised himself by continuing. I've been working toward this for 2 years. If it falls through, you'll find another way, Emma said simply. You seem like the type who doesn't give up easily. What makes you say that? The way you carry yourself. Even stressed and tired, you have this ... presence, like you're used to solving problems. Emma paused. Though you also look like you haven't slept properly in weeks. Michael almost smiled. Try months. I haven't taken a real vacation in, God, 3 years? Maybe 4. That's not living, that's just existing. Emma's voice was gentle but firm. What's the point of all that success if you never enjoy it? The question hung in the air. Michael couldn't remember the last time someone had asked him about happiness rather than quarterly projections or market shares. I used to love what I did, he admitted. Building something from nothing, solving impossible problems. But somewhere along the way, it became about the numbers instead of the innovation. Emma nodded. I see that a lot here. Business travelers, always rushing to the next meeting, the next deal. They order coffee to go and barely look up from their phones. You're the first one in months who's actually sat down and talked. Maybe that's because you're the first person in months who's treated me like a human being instead of a bank account. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching a plane taxi down the runway. The airport was eerily quiet at this hour, with only the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of cleaning equipment. Can I ask you something? Emma said. If money wasn't an issue, what would you do? Michael considered the question seriously. I think I'd travel. Really? Travel, not just fly business class between conference rooms. I'd see places, meet people, understand how technology affects real lives instead of just profit margins. That sounds amazing. Why don't you? Because I'm 52 years old and I've spent the last 25 years building something I can't just walk away from. I have employees, investors, responsibilities. I'm not saying walk away, but what's the point of building an empire if you never get to enjoy it? If you never get to see the world you're helping to connect? Michael stared at her. In 30 minutes, this airport waitress had asked him questions his therapist, his board of directors, and his ex-wife had never thought to ask. You know what's funny? He said. I've been so focused on this Asia expansion because I thought it would finally prove I'd made it. But sitting here, talking to you, ... I can't remember the last time I felt this relaxed. Emma smiled. Maybe missing. Your flight wasn't such a disaster after all. Michael's phone buzzed again. Sarah's name appeared on the screen, probably with another frantic update about the meeting. For the first time in years, he let it go to voicemail. Tell me about your photography, he said instead. What's stopping you from taking that trip? Emma's eyes sparkled as she pulled out her phone, showing him some of her work. Michael found himself captivated by her photos of local Denver communities, portraits of elderly men playing chess in the park, children drawing with chalk on sidewalks, street musicians who probably barely made enough for dinner. These are incredible, he said, meaning it. You have a real eye for finding beauty in ordinary moments. Thank you. That means a lot. Emma paused. You know, I've been thinking about this trip for 3 years, and I keep finding excuses not to go. Maybe I'm scared it won't live up to my dreams. Or maybe you're scared it will, and then you'll have to figure out what comes next. Emma looked at him with surprise. That's probably true. It's easier to dream about something than to actually chase it. Michael felt a strange kinship with this woman he'd known for less than an hour. Here they were, two people from completely different worlds, both afraid to take the leap toward what they really wanted. What time does your shift start? Tomorrow, he asked. 2 in the afternoon. Why? Michael made a decision that surprised even him. Would you like to have breakfast? I mean, after I figure out this meeting situation. I'd like to hear more about your photography project. Emma studied his face, perhaps looking for ulterior motives. Michael realized that in his world, there usually were some, but not tonight. I'd like that, she said finally. But first you need to get some sleep. There's a decent hotel in the terminal, the Westin. They might have rooms available. Emma, Michael said as she stood to clear his cup. Thank you. For the coffee, for listening. For reminding me that there's more to life than the next deal. Thank you for not treating me like just another server. It's nice to have a real conversation for once. As Michael gathered his things, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Genuine connection with another human being. Missing his flight had been a disaster, but meeting Emma felt like, what? Fate seemed too strong a word, but coincidence felt too weak. See you tomorrow, Michael, Emma said, turning off the cafe lights. See you tomorrow, Emma. Michael barely slept. Not because of the missed meeting, though his phone showed 17 missed calls from Sarah and 3 from board members, but because he couldn't stop thinking about his conversation with Emma. At 5 a.m., he gave up on sleep and headed to the airport Starbucks for what felt like his 100th cup of coffee in 12 hours. The flight to New York was delayed by an hour due to weather, which meant he'd arrive just 30 minutes before the meeting. His presentation materials were in his laptop, his backup slides were in the cloud, and his suit was wrinkled but serviceable. Technically, he could still make this work, but as he sat in the departure lounge, scrolling through the same slides he'd reviewed hundreds of times, Michael found his mind wandering to Emma's photographs. The way she captured authentic moments, the passion in her voice when she talked about documenting communities around the world. When was the last time he'd felt that passionate about anything? His phone rang. Michael, thank God. Sarah's voice was strained. I've been trying to reach you all night. The Japanese investors are concerned about the delay. I've rescheduled the meeting for 2 p.m., but they're not happy. It'll be fine, Sarah. I've given this presentation in my sleep. Ah. You sure you're okay? You sound ... different. Michael almost laughed. Different. If Sarah only knew. He'd spent the evening having the most honest conversation of his adult life with a woman whose last name he'd learned an hour ago. I'm fine. Just tired. Have the legal team review the contracts one more time and make sure the product demo is loaded on the backup laptop. Already done. Michael, this deal. I know, Sarah, it's important. I'll be there. But as he hung up, Michael realized he'd lied. The deal that had consumed his thoughts for 2 years suddenly felt ... distant. Important. Yes, but not urgent in the way it had yesterday. At 6:15 a.m., he'd boarded the plane to New York. At 6:30 a.m., the flight was delayed again. Michael stared out the window at the Denver skyline, thinking about Emma starting her day, probably reviewing her photographs and dreaming about Southeast Asia. By 7 a.m., the delay stretched to 2 hours. The meeting was definitely off. Michael called Sarah with the news, enduring her barely controlled panic about rescheduling with the investors. But instead of the fury he expected to feel, Michael felt relief. At 8 a.m., he made a decision that would have seemed insane 24 hours earlier. He got off the plane. Michael found Emma at Mile High Cafe, setting up for the morning shift. She looked up in surprise as he approached. Shouldn't you be somewhere over Kansas by now? She asked. Flight got delayed. Multiple times. I missed the meeting anyway. Michael sat down at the same booth as the night before. So I was thinking about that breakfast offer. Emma's smile could have powered the entire terminal. I don't start until 2, and I know a great place off Colfax. But first, are you okay? You look like you've made a big decision. I think I have. Can I ask you something? That trip to Southeast Asia, what's really stopping you? Emma paused and wiping down the counter. Honestly? Fear. Fear that I'm not good enough, that I'll spend all my savings and come back with nothing to show for it. Fear that I'm just a dreamer pretending to be a photographer. What if I told you that your photographs are some of the most authentic work I've seen? And I've been to gallery openings with pieces that cost more than most people's cars. I'd say you're very kind, but, Emma. Michael's voice was serious. I want to make you an offer, and I need you to hear me out before you say no. Emma sat down across from him, curiosity replacing surprise. My company has been looking for a documentary photographer for a project we're developing technology. Initiatives in developing communities. It's a year-long assignment, traveling to 12 countries, documenting how our programs affect real people's lives. Emma's eyes widened. Michael, the salary is $80,000, plus all travel expenses, equipment, and a substantial budget for your own artistic projects on the side. You'd be based in Singapore, with travel throughout Southeast Asia, exactly where you wanted to go. Emma stared at him. Are you serious? Dead serious. But there's more. Michael took a breath. I want to lead this project personally. Not from a boardroom in New York, but on the ground. I want to remember why I got into this business in the first place. You're talking about leaving your company? I'm talking about remembering what it was supposed to be about. Innovation that helps people, not just drives profits. Michael leaned forward. Emma, last night you asked me what I'd do if money wasn't an issue. Well, money isn't an issue. I can fund this project personally if I have to. Emma was quiet for a long moment, processing what he'd said. This is crazy. We met 12 hours ago. I know. But sometimes the best decisions seem crazy at first. Michael smiled. Besides, you're the one who said missing my flight wasn't such a disaster. But your meeting, your expansion, will happen or it won't. Either way, I'll still be 52 years old, worth more money than I can spend in a lifetime, and completely disconnected from anything that matters. Michael's voice grew passionate. Emma, I've spent 25 years building a company. Maybe it's time I spent some time building a life. Emma looked at her hands, then back at Michael. Can I think about it? Of course. But I should mention I'm flying to Singapore next week to set up the project, with or without the Asian expansion deal. Next week? Emma's voice was faint. Like I said, sometimes the best decisions seem crazy. Michael stood up. Come on. Let's go get that breakfast. And you can tell me more about what you'd want to photograph in Vietnam. As they walked through the airport together, Emma turned to him. Michael, can I ask you something? Why me? You could hire any photographer in the world. Michael considered the question as they passed a group of business travelers, all staring at their phones, rushing toward gates and meetings and deadlines. Because you see things differently. Because you asked me questions no one else has asked. In years. Because you reminded me that there's beauty in ordinary moments, and that's exactly what this project needs. Emma smiled. You know, my grandmother always said that when one door closes, another one opens. I just never thought it would happen so literally. Michael really laughed for the first time in months. So is that a yes? That's a let's go get breakfast and talk about it. Emma paused. But Michael, thank you. Whether the first take, the job or not, thank you for seeing something in my work that I couldn't see myself. Thank you for seeing something in me that I'd forgotten was there. As they left the airport together, the morning sun streaming through the massive windows, Michael's phone buzzed with another call from Sarah. This time, he turned it off completely. Sometimes missing a flight leads you exactly where you're meant to be. 6 months later, Michael would receive a package at his hotel in Hanoi. Inside would be a framed photograph Emma had taken of him on their first day in Singapore, sitting at a street cafe, laptop closed, actually talking to the elderly Vietnamese man who'd been teaching him to play chess. On the back, Emma had written, "To the man who taught me that the best adventures start with missing your original flight. Thank you for showing me that dreams are just plans waiting for courage." Michael would keep that photograph on his desk for the rest of his life. Next to another one, Emma had taken a picture of the Mile High Cafe where it all began. Empty except for 2 coffee cups on a table by the window. The end.
Thank you for watching this story unfold with us here on M&A The Story Unfolds. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new tale. We'd love to know where you're watching. Leave a comment below and tell us what part of the world you're joining us from. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.